Argentina defeated Canada in the semifinals of Copa America 2-0, which means that Canada will now play for the third place match. And for today's preview, I brought on James Sharman from Footy Prime. I'm very excited to have James on today because when I was younger, I used to watch him all the time on Soccer Central. So I'm excited to have you on. I really appreciate the time.
Hey, no worries, mate. You're making me feel very old now, but I am very old. But I'm glad we had some viewers back in those days. That's good to hear.
It was a lot of fun, so I'm really excited to chat with you. And my first question for you, James, is just simply looking at the semifinal match against Argentina. It's never really easy playing a team twice in a tournament, let alone a team with the quality of Argentina. So I just want to get your thoughts on the match and how you thought Canada did.
Yeah, it's a good point that they've played in before. I know some people were saying, well, does that give Canada the advantage or Argentina? To me, it always gives the better team the advantage. They can figure out lesser teams, so they've seen them already. Even though Canada was different in that first game compared to the second game, I thought from a Canadian perspective, they played well. They weren't overwhelmed. They're on the front foot. They gave Argentina some questions to answer, but in the end, I think it was pretty clear that the difference between the two teams, that the gulf, and that's obvious, I think, obviously. But Argentina are the world's best team for a reason. They managed that game really well, despite Canada asking some big questions late in that match when Argentina really kind of sat back and welcomed the pressure. But I don't know about you, Josh, but I don't think there was ever a moment where I didn't think Argentina would win that game. I was pretty confident that's how it's going to end, even from opening kickoff.
Yeah, I agree. I was pretty nervous around the opening 10-15 minutes. I didn't want the occasion to get to the men's national team, and I thought they did really well in that first half. I know that they conceded, but I thought the response was excellent. They had that late chance from David, and I had confidence going into the second half. But then again, that opening 10-15 minutes, I wanted to see how Canada was going to handle it. Once the second goal came in, it pretty much put the game to bed. The only chances I really found this national team created in that match was later in the game in Argentina. I don't know if they just switched off, if they fell asleep, but they were giving Canada the ball. They were basically saying, try to score. And kind of the theme of this tournament for me is we do struggle to create chances, and when we do, we just can't find the back of the net.
Yeah, 100%. That's the big storyline. Listen, this team, they got better defensively as the tournament progressed. And even through World Cup qualifying, the questions were always about that defense with Canada, and at the World Cup in particular. And then the last 18 months has been this kind of weird, murky, dark time for Canada. I'm not sure what they were. But in this tournament under Jesse Marsch, you've seen this team play pretty well defensively, which is really positive going forward. Even though, I acknowledge that the first goal in particular wasn't a great look, but you're playing against Messi and Argentina. But yeah, going forward, they didn't create too much, and when they did create, the finishing just wasn't there. And I think if we're going to consider ourselves, on the verge of becoming a soccer nation and be legitimate worldwide, we've got to ask those questions and hold players, individuals accountable. John David, I don't think had a great tournament. It wasn't terrible. I think he worked really hard, and as people say, he pressed well, and he's a good defensive striker, but he's there to score goals. Carl Laren created very little up front as well, so we can ask those questions, and they've got to figure that out. There's some youth coming through there. Ali Awashi, when he comes on, I thought was really exciting. He's had some chances, probably should have scored a couple of goals in this tournament, but didn't. But that is, at this point, there's questions around the pitch. It is still Canada, that they've come a long way. But right now, number one for Jesse Marsch is how do we find a way to get the ball in the back of the net? Because that's pretty important if you want to win games.
And that's where I was going to go next. I do think it's fantastic seeing Bombito and Cornelius step up, like you mentioned. They're also both linked to a top 5 league. And I just think that'll be crucial for this national team moving forward with our two starting center backs, potentially in top 5 league. But we are here to focus a little bit on the striker position. And Kyle Laren has been a polarizing figure this entire tournament. If you're on X, you would see that. And for me, the big praise I had for him is his off-the-ball presence. But like you mentioned, he's here to score goals. And he had a ton of opportunities to score in this tournament, and he just didn't do it. I didn't like the combination play as well with Jonathan David. But every single match under Jesse Marsch, he's went with David Laren up front. So do you think that's something, I guess, maybe even for this third place match, but let alone for the matches to come, do you think that's something where Jesse should tamper with?
It's been difficult for Marsch, right? Because how can you really experiment when you're playing the Netherlands, France, Argentina twice, and then these other teams? It wasn't the opportunity to tinker, really. He had to go with what he thought was going to be the best, most successful 11/12/13. So he was in a tough spot, although I'm sure he wouldn't trade it for the world. But moving forward, I think we need to see some experimentation. He knows that, and that's nothing against Laren. I like Laren personally. I like a centre forward who can hold the ball up well. He, like I said, he's a hard worker. There's no doubt. He's smart. He's taking on a leadership role. But you do need your top guys to score goals. And at this point, he's not doing that. I would love to see some experimentation in the third place game. That being said, they want to win this thing. Let's not kid ourselves. As a fan of Canada, listen, I don't give a damn about third place games usually. At Euros and World Cups, I couldn't give a damn, that they're a waste of time. But suddenly I care about this one because I think when you're a smaller team, an upstart team that gets a chance to finish third in the tournament, you got to take that. You had to try. I remember Croatia doing it many years ago when they were first breaking through in the European scene. I think 98, they won the third place game. It meant everything to that team, everything to that country. So I think as far as we're trying to push this momentum forward and build the game in this country, saying, yeah, we got someone called it this morning on the radio show, a bronze medal. Like, I had to kind of grimace. Oh yeah, well, I guess we could call that a bronze medal, but no one really cares. But it is important. So I'd like to see some experimentation in that one. I mentioned Oluwaseyi, and one of these days we'll figure out the correct pronunciation of Tanya's name. He's so young and fresh on the scene. I hear it pronounced so differently, and I've pronounced it myself 4 or 5 different times in the last 24 hours. But when he's come on, he's looked dangerous. Maybe he should have scored. Maybe he needs to be a bit more composed in front of goal. But he's young. He's getting that experience. Give him 90 minutes. I want to see what this kid can do. So maybe that's a chance there to experiment up front. Theo Bair didn't get any minutes. Again, he's played well in Scotland this year. I'd like to see him get some minutes at some point. And who else is there? I mean, I'm not an expert as far as who's coming through the pipeline for Canada. But finding a clinical finisher, I think, is really important.
The strikers in Europe this season, Ugbo's not in the roster, but like you mentioned, Bair's been fantastic. Jason Russell-Rose had a really good run of form as well. I thought he was going to be Jesse's first striker off the bench, but Tanny's obviously taken that opportunity. I pronounce it Oluwase.
That sounds better. Oluwase. That sounds smoother to me, Josh. I like that. I like the shay as opposed to the say. I like the say. Maybe we should ask him.
We should ask him. That's probably what we should do. I had to type it out and put the dash to make sure I was trying to pronounce it properly. But we'll play a little game here then, because Joshua Cloak put out a tweet saying that Jesse Marsch is very likely to make multiple lineup changes for Canada's third place match. Like you kind of mentioned, I 100% agree. Canada's going to want to win this, but it seems like there's a likelihood that a few players that maybe came off the bench and had some good looks, maybe in Ali Ahmed, could get a few looks. So James, I'm going to ask you, just name me a couple players that you think realistically have done something in this tournament to maybe deserve a start, like maybe Tanny, maybe it's Ali, and then we're going to very quickly try to build our predicted starting 11 for this game. So,
okay, that's fun. Okay, I like that. All right, so I love that you mentioned Ali Ahmed. Again, yesterday came off the bench, looked really good, looked better than the previous time he came off, and a guy that was a late call up to the squad. He's doing, he's had a tough time in Vancouver this year, coming off the hernia surgery, but we saw what he could do last year. He's a really exciting player for the future. So I'd love to see him get an opportunity, whether it's on the left or the right. He's pretty versatile. So he's one. I wonder if you're going to see Kamal Miller get some minutes as well. Listen, I'm a huge fan of Bombito and Cornelius. They're, to me, two of the biggest stories of this tournament. They've been outstanding, and Jesse trusts them. But you need to rely on depth at centre-back for sure. And listen, Kamal Miller hasn't let the team down too much in the past. I like this player. Maybe he could get in there, take some minutes away from one of those two players. Listen, they played a lot of football. And as we saw post-match with Eustachio's comments, he said that we were fatigued. We were leggy out there. Jesse Marsch's football is demanding, right? And there's a lot of games in a short amount of time. And these guys will have to get used to it. So I think he may be forced into some changes there for sure. So there's some names that kind of jump out. But the number one for me is Oluwase. I love to see him get 90 minutes or even 60 or 70. Let's get him out there. Let's get him a start and then see what he can do.
Now, what about Alphonso Davies? After the game, we saw him smiling. We saw him walking around. We don't know at the time of recording if he's going to start, but I guess we'll kind of assume that he is. Maybe we'll play with it with another option. But from what you're telling me, James, I'm going to try to just put together a starting 11.
Okay.
I'm guessing that Jesse's going to go with the 4-2-2. I don't think he's going to go to that 3-man midfield. I still believe Kripo will probably start instead of Dane Sinclair. Just my guess.
Absolutely.
Back four, we'll put Kamal Miller in it. So it'll be Miller, Bombito. We'll have Johnson at right back. And if Davies healthy, he'll be left back.
Yeah, I wonder if they start Fonzie. It looked a pretty nasty one. I know they come out and said he's fine. He is the captain, of course, right? So I'm sure he'll want to start. But I wouldn't mind seeing Kyle Larin Sorry, Carl Laren. Sorry, Richie Larea.
Richie, okay.
Now that would be an adjustment. Richie Larea playing at left back potentially.
All right.
If Fonzie's not there.
All right, Kyle Laren left back, and no. All right, I like the two. That'll be our backup. So if Davies is healthy, obviously he starts. If not, Richie can go there. Right mid, we'll go Ali Ahmed. I think that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm assuming still Eustachio Kone in the midfield.
Yeah, I think so. Kone obviously was dropped for Ozo for those kind of crazy, chaotic games, which I think worked really well. But yeah, Kone looked really good yesterday. Give him another run, 100%. I like that midfield partnership.
Yeah, I thought he was Canada's best player for sure.
Yeah.
Which on the left, is it Schaff? Do you give him another go there? It's probably Schaffelberg or Miller is really your only.
Yeah, I think it's Schaff. I mean, he's been the golden boy, really, and he's going to be mentioned as one of the breakthrough stars of this tournament. I thought Miller coming off the bench hasn't looked that great. I preferred him starting. I actually like what he was doing with Fonzie in those friendlies. He was really I thought, starting something nice. But you can't knock Schaffelberg and what he's brought to this tournament and this team. Let's get him out there as much as possible. Let's get him to learn this trade. He's pretty raw still. But yeah, I'd definitely put Schaffelberg out left.
Yep. Let him run for 60 minutes, and then it's time to get Miller on. It's very easy. It's those two. It's one starts and one will come off around the 60th, which leaves the two strikers, David and Tanny, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, and we've got to get some confidence in John David with a Canada shirt on. As simple as that. We know what he can do. We know he's a great striker. Have the off-field, transfer rumors got to him a bit because I thought he had a very average tournament so far. So get him out there, hopefully some confidence, and let's see what he can do beside Tanny.
All right, James, we're playing Uruguay in the third place match. Give me your initial thoughts on their run so far.
Uruguay, listen, anytime you get to watch Biello ball, you have to watch it. I'm not a technical guy by any stretch, and his football confuses me, but it's fun. It's fun to watch. Anytime also you get to see, Luis Suarez wearing that shirt, there aren't many more opportunities. He's an old man. He's got no more knees left. You have to take that advantage. We saw Canada play Uruguay. Was it just before the World Cup? I think it was, wasn't it? And they beat Canada 2-0 pretty convincingly. Uruguay are always going to be a force, no matter what. And again, fun to watch with Biello and Darwin Núñez up front. Will he be amazing? Will he be terrible? That's the beauty of Darwin Núñez. We never know. But obviously a huge challenge. It's going to be a partisan Uruguayan crowd there, of course, but can't wait.
James, you've been covering the sport in Canada for a very long time. If I told you after Canada's 8-1 loss to Honduras back in 2012, don't worry, James, in 12 years' time, we will have qualified for a World Cup. We'll be co-hosting a World Cup. Our men's national team players will be playing some of the best leagues around Europe, and we will be in the 2024 Copa America third place match. Would you believe me?
Would I believe you? Probably not. Not the Copa America part. I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, I think it's so close, Josh, to us right now. We don't really appreciate it. I think we're going to look back on it in a few months' time and say, oh yeah, we got the semis of Copa. How did that happen? I could have seen a World Cup qualification because if you go back to 2012 and that infamous night in Honduras, that wasn't a bad Canada team actually, and they played well in qualifying and they were getting close to moving on in that tournament. Then what happened. We understand that, but there was some optimism, I think before that match, and then it all went pear shaped. We didn't know who was coming through at that point. We didn't know that there was a young Alphonso Davies on the brink. John David wasn't on the scene just yet. So I would have been very surprised. It's been an amazing time. It's, littered with some darkness, obviously off the pitch issues have kind of clouded a lot of things. And since the World Cup, obviously hasn't been brilliant. But yeah, we're in a really good place right now. If they can get this damn CBA signed, Josh, and get that pushed away, we've got new leadership. The women are now, just weeks away from the Olympics. If they have a good tournament, that'll just help this momentum, this vibe, this optimism ahead of 2026.
It is a great vibe right now, and I want to get one final thought from you on today's preview, and it's on Jesse Marsch because it's crazy, and you don't really realize it because, like you said, we're too close, but he's been on the job for 7 weeks. No. And he grabbed a team he's not familiar with. He had to trust, like you mentioned, 11 to 14, 15 players, and just let them run. It wasn't always the prettiest, but that doesn't matter. We made it to the
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. We played all 6 matches.
That's the beauty of it, right? It wasn't pretty. Canada was pushed, right? Some of the chaotic scenes against Chile and Peru and Venezuela in particular, they were hard games to play, but they kept their heads. They still played Jesse Marsch ball. It wasn't quite as aggressive as we've seen in the past. The conditions wouldn't allow it, but they're on the front foot. they ran for 90 minutes in all of these games, never gave up and showed that resilience that we saw in World Cup qualifying, but which disappeared. But he's conjured that again. He's brought in some youth now into the team. I think it's been a dream start for him. When he came aboard, I thought they could go 7-8 games without a win, quite possibly. And I'd be fine with that if I saw progress. I kept saying, just want to see progress. That's all I care about. Well, shit, we've seen some progress, right? We've seen a lot of progress, more than that.
I interviewed Jimmy Conrad, and the first thing he said to me was, so Jesse's got Netherlands, France, and Argentina. He's gonna be sitting back with me pretty soon coming up. So, the Netherlands game was a bit of a wake up call. But again, he throwing Bombito and Cornelius and putting Davies at left back, he's made big decisions. He's stuck with what he's known, and really, leading into 2026, you'd imagine the team's just going to keep getting better under him.
That's a great point, right? And I mean, I don't know who's coming up. He's going to be scouring the earth with dual nationals. We know that. There's some youngsters coming through, but you look at the squad, and especially the first 11, 12, 13 from Copa, I don't see it changing dramatically for 2026. But we're going to see, Ismail Kone playing in Liga and Marseille, a big club. He's only going to get better. We're going to see Bombito probably making a move at some point, only going to get better. Schapelberg, same thing. Cornelius, same thing. These guys that have given Jesse Marsch his own imprint on this team with these players, they're only going to be better in 2 years' time. So I think it bodes really, really well. If John Daly gets that big move to a top team, which is possible, we'll find out. Again, how will that benefit them? So where they're going to do in 2026, who knows? They're going to be seeded, right? So the group might be somewhat palatable. Why not? Why can't we go long in the World Cup now? Maybe I'm jumping the gun here a little bit. I think there's still a gulf between us and the next level of teams. But so far, Jesse Marsch, you can't criticize him really for anything.
No, you can't. I 100% agree. It's exciting times to come. James, I really appreciate the time on the preview today. Check out Footy Prime if you guys haven't, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Josh, mate. Enjoyed this. Anytime.
Exciting news for the channel. I'm thrilled to announce that JJD TV is partnering up with BetStamp and SignUp Expert. This opens up an incredible opportunity for you to join up with some of my favorite sports books to get the best odds and user offers throughout Copa America. Head over to my dedicated page at signupexpert.com/JJDTV to explore a selection of sports books tailored to your region, each with unique offerings. If you're ready to take your sports betting to the next level throughout this tournament and want to show some love for the channel, I highly recommend you signing up for your next sports book through my Sign Up Expert link. You can easily find it in the description of this video.